What's Mikhaila's most annoying quality and vice versa?
Okay.
There's nothing annoying about me. What makes Jordan both great husbands? And how can I emulate that myself for my wife? So what do you like about Dad?
If I tell him what I want, he listens, and he doesn't often forget. If I don't share what I need, he won't know, and we won't grow closer.
I can talk to him and he doesn't get offended. I'm like, hey, this is really bothering me. Like, this thing you do is really annoying. So I don't have to monitor what I say, which is so freeing. You know, you get pregnant, you have hormones. And I was way more irritable and just like didn't have as much positive emotion and wasn't that interested in Jordan, which was like, that was kind of rough. How do I prepare for marriage to be the best wife I can be?
Okay.
How do you prepare?
How do you prepare?
Mom,
Hi.
welcome to my new podcast setup.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very cool, and it's spacious. I like it.
I like it too. I'm
Good.
going to put something right there.
Okay.
So it looks a little less empty in the middle.
Yeah.
So I took a bunch of questions from Instagram that people asked. So I think it would be fun if we just run through some questions.
Sure.
Have a nice, easy podcast.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready?
Think it's easy, do you? Depends on the questions.
Depends on the questions, it's true.
It does.
Okay, we could start with this. We could start with dating advice. A couple of people asked about dating advice. Do you have dating advice for people?
Do I have dating advice?
I could start.
I haven't. Well, I have dating, but I date with my husband. It's not new dates, but if these were new dates, that's what I was thinking. Someone that you've just met.
Probably someone that you just met.
Yeah, I think so. So I would say that do a lot of listening, and that's good advice for no matter what you're doing. But you want to know who this person is and meet with them with other people so you can see how they interact with other people. You can see how they react with people in a restaurant who are serving you, so you know what their relationship is to people they might be paying for their you might be paying for their services. How do they treat those people? You know, and you want to know that, and you want to know if you're going out to any place social, what the relationship is between this person, yourself, and all the people around you, and that'll teach you a lot about who they are, because everybody is pretty much who they are in the spur of the moment. In public, it's pretty hard to be someone that you're not, I think. And so I think that's a good trial for the first time that you go out with someone is go somewhere public and pay attention. Just pay attention. You know, if they're smart, they'll be watching you too. And so be on your best behavior and try to be of service to yourself and to the other person. Like, keep those things in mind.
What do you think about, so when I met Jordan, and he asked me if he wanted to marry me, I immediately told him everything that I thought might scare him away. Because I was like, we didn't know each other for very long. It was really fast. It was like 2 weeks after meeting, and he was like, I want to marry you. And I said, you have no idea what you're getting into. Hey, if you haven't checked out my anti-hangover pill, check it out at fullerhealth.com. It helps save your brain from the negative impact of alcohol. And even if you don't drink often, I do not drink often at all, especially now that I'm breastfeeding. I haven't yet, actually, but one day. Anyway, if you don't drink often, it should be something that's part of your wellness routine anyway, that you just have on your shelf. It reduces symptoms of nausea, anxiety, shakiness, and it even helps a bit with sleep deprivation because it works on GABA, as well as helps break down acetaldehyde, which is what poisons you when you drink. We have a 30-day money-back guarantee, and if you do like this product, please leave a review. I love reading the reviews at fullerhealth.com, code MP15 for 15% off, linked in the comments or description. Enjoy the rest of this episode with my mom. And then told him like 5 scary things, which were pretty scary, and it was... We'll see if I actually want to say them all on the podcast, but there was, I'm divorced. I have a kid. I work extremely closely with my family. So I'm in like almost constant communication with my parents. I need someone that'll help me. We were already working together, so but a little bit, not a lot. It was like I would ideally I have someone that can help me with all these projects that I'm starting because they're definitely too much for me, and I work all the time. So like my ideal day, other than hanging out with kids, is really working a lot. And there's an age difference. I'm older than him. So I told him so that was like 6 things, and I told him that right away. And he was like, that's all fine. And I was like, well, I don't know if it's fine. I think you might be young and naive. We'll see. But it's been working out splendidly. But what do you think? I think
Well,
my
truth.
advice.
Truth,
Yeah,
right?
like,
That's truth.
and like real honesty,
Yeah.
because maybe the scary parts of you aren't as scary as you think they are.
Right.
Hopefully.
Well, hopefully you've learned from your experiences, so which makes you more wise than you may have been.
Yeah. If like these are all the things that happened.
These
too.
are the things I've learned. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Right.
a good point.
Yeah.
And I think if you end up scaring somebody away by telling them who you are, then they weren't meant to be anyway.
That's right.
It's gonna come up anyway.
Yeah.
So you might as well try scaring them away at the beginning. Saves a lot of time. That was dating advice. Kay. This was kind of interesting. It's how are you different and how are you similar in parenting styles? Well, I wasn't around to witness your parenting style, but you're like kind of around to witness my parenting style.
Let's see. I stayed home with my kids, so I spent a lot of time with my kids, and I didn't put up with a lot of misbehavior. Neither do you. I liked to have a routine, so a nightly routine. Dinners, lunches, breakfasts, all of that was routine in our house, and we ate together every meal. So that was part of my parenting style, was to set up routines. And I think that the routines for little kids, they start to become aware of what they can offer for those routines. So I can remember when we were in Boston and Julian was pretty teeny tiny. He could walk, he was stable on his feet, and Jordan was getting him to put the knives and forks on the table, and he couldn't quite reach the table, but he could get them up there.
That's cute.
And and it was good. So we tried to include you guys in the running of the house from as early age as you could master, to clean up your toys. And, when you teach a little kid to clean up their toys, you have to make it small enough that they can be successful. So it's not just clean up your room. Do you see this toy right here? Does this toy belong somewhere in the room? Where does it belong? On the shelf? Do you think you could put it on the shelf? And it's slow. It's slow, and it's one thing after the next. But if you do that, if you take the time for that, eventually they are very proud of themselves because they know how to do it on their own. And that's how you build independence. And that's also how you build trust, because I think they can see that every day there's something that's similar every day. So then they can predict their lives, and that's good for them, keeps them calm.
This is my question. When we started doing chores, did we get paid to do things like clean our room? I've been having a discussion with Jordan because I remember like Sunday was chores day, and we had this list of chores, and every, 6 months maybe, we used to sort out like, okay, who's going to do this room and who's going to do that room, like who's in charge of what room. And so we'd have a list of things we were supposed to do on Sundays. You remember this, right?
Well, we met on Sundays. We met on Sundays about 4 p.m. when you guys still wanted to be playing outside with your friends.
Yep. Right in the middle of the playtime.
Right in the middle of playtime. But we met every Sunday at that time. And we would say, okay, there's, say, 5 jobs in the house that have to be done every week. Who wants to choose? You choose which job do you want. So If you choose you're going to put out the garbage, then that's your job for the week. If you choose you're going to, make beds, if you choose you're going to help prepare a dinner, or are you going to wash the dishes? And so every Sunday you got to choose.
So it was, we did that every Sunday.
Yeah, because sometimes you choose something you didn't really want to do.
Oh, okay.
And you only had to do it for a week.
You weren't locked in for 6 months.
No.
That's better. So I've been talking to Jordan about implementing chores, and was trying to kind of mimic. I don't think we're going to do the Sunday sit down. I remember that was in the middle of playtime, but Jordan was like, I never got paid to do things like keep my room clean because it's my room, so it's my responsibility to keep clean.
Yeah,
so I shouldn't be paid for it.
We didn't pay you.
I thought we got like $2, and it was just we had to complete all our chores. I thought it was like bundled in.
That could be, but I wasn't part of that.
Dad was part of the monetary.
He was
compensation
definitely
part.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay. Next. $2 wasn't very much. Even back then, you could only get so many sour keys for $2.
That's good.
That's what I remember. That's good. Only a few sour keys.
Yeah.
Okay, how has our relationship changed with each other over the years, especially since Mikhaila had kids? Do you think me having kids has been what's changed our relationship, or just time?
Oh, well, I think having kids changes the relationship between a mother and a daughter.
Well, you understand your mom a lot more once you go through it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow, okay, this is what she went through. That's a lot.
Yeah. And there's no way you can understand that without having kids.
I know, not at all.
No.
The
Because it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe it's as all-consuming as it is, because at the beginning it's all-consuming. And how you just have no idea how consuming it is, because you've never done anything like that, where you're at the beck and call of someone who needs you, and you have no choice in the matter. It's really something.
I had this. Well, you know how much I like working and building things and creating, and so, and I had Scarlett. She's 6, so that was almost So that was 6 years ago, and like, that's a very long time. And I feel like when the hormones wear off from the very beginning, when they're really little, you kind of forget again. So I forgot. So I had this idea during pregnancy that I was like, I'm not going to take any mat leave. And I didn't end up taking any mat leave before I had George, because he came at 36 weeks. So I actually didn't end up taking any time. But at 30, when you guys came to stay, when I was around 32 weeks, my body kind of was like, good luck doing everything you were doing. Because like, no, you need to rest more. And there wasn't much I could do to push through that. But then I completely forgot how crazy you feel. Not crazy like insane exactly, but like how all-encompassing a baby is once you have a baby. Because I was like, I can schedule things, and it's early. He's going to be 3 weeks, right? It's early, but like, it's like you don't have much of a choice. It's like, oh, I have an idea of I'm going to be able to do all these things, and I forgot with the sleep deprivation and the nursing you nurse for like an hour every 3 or 4 hours.
Right. Well, that's
That's your
work.
day.
That's full-time work.
Yeah, that's the day. It's like I have a 2-hour period where I can do a podcast. Let's see if I can handle this today. But it's crazy what moms go through.
Yeah. And that time that you spend with your child when you're nursing, where you can look at each other, that is magic.
Yeah.
That's magic. It's good for him. It's good for the mom. That creates that attachment. That's the first thing that creates
Stops
the
attachment issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
And then when the kid gets a little bit older, he'll start to really pay attention to your reactions, to his emotions, to see if he's got his emotions, if he's expressing emotions properly.
Oh, I watched this, and I knew this already, because of Scarlett and having a kid. But I watched this video it was on Instagram or something, and it showed what happens if you overreact to a kid falling over. So if a kid falls over, there's this like split second where they look at you to see how they're going to react. And if you react in a neurotic way, like, are you like, oh my gosh, that must have hurt, they'll scream. And like, who knows what they're feeling if they see pain in your face, right?
Yeah, right.
And then if you go, oh, that was kind of funny, like, you're okay, like, get yourself up, sometimes they'll laugh instead of scream. And so it's important to be stable and like a calm presence and not try and make your
it
kids
more than the
neurotic.
other. Yeah, and for them to come for a hug when they need a
Yeah.
hug. You know, when you were only you were 22 months old when Julian was born, and we taught you before he was born, to come for a hug whenever you needed one. And we told you that, you know, I was going to be really busy once the baby was born. And so I needed you to come to me and tell me what you needed. And you did. You know, like, we practiced it before he was born. And then if Jordan and if he would come home from work and give me a hug, you'd get in between us.
Oh, Scarlett does that.
Yeah. And that's very good.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's very good.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I talked to Scarlett about it too, because I was like in bed for 2 weeks after having a baby. And I told her that at the beginning, the baby takes a lot of time because I'm really tired and he's really tired and nursing is a lot.
So she has to come for attention.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
That is good.
Okay. What makes Jordan both? It's not actually convenient that we're both married to somebody named Jordan, but it's convenient for this question asker. What makes Jordan both great husbands, and how can I emulate that myself for my wife? So what do you like about Dad?
He's very devoted to me.
He is.
Yeah.
Very.
He's very
in love with you.
Yeah, he is.
It's nice.
Yeah. He if I tell him what I want, he listens and he pays attention. And he doesn't often forget. So sharing truthfully what I need with him is really important, because then he gets to know me better. And if I don't share what I need, he won't know and we won't grow closer. And so we're very close, because I try to be, you know, the whole thing when we were first married, it was tell the truth. That was the rule, tell the truth. And so we've practiced that for 35 years.
What's an example of something that you need?
I need him to buy me clothing that I like. And when he first bought me clothing, it wasn't anything I liked. But I didn't say never buy me clothing again. You know, I said,
isn't your forte, just give up.
Yeah, that's right. So I had to educate him on what was a successful purchase and what was a not successful purchase, and he paid attention, and he got better at it. So that was good, because it gave him pleasure to be able to buy me something that I wanted. And
Do you remember the Christmas? It must have been 2015. We had a Christmas and Dad got me this little leather bat purse, and this is when I was in university and I had taken out a loan and I didn't have very much money, and it was this bat purse and it was this big and it was a leather bat and it had this silver chain, and I was like, okay, I can't even fit a phone in this. I can barely put like coins in here. It's like leather, and he's all happy about this leather bat purse. And then he got you it was a skeleton bracelet holding onto your arm.
It was a
arm
skeleton.
Bones.
Yeah, right up to the wrist.
It was horrifying. It was we opened it, and I don't think any of us could be like fake the positive emotion. And Dad was so excited about this skeleton bracelet and this little bat purse. I was like, Merry Christmas.
I think he thought, well, I don't know. He must have missed Halloween.
I don't know. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's funny.
What else? Those. So what else? Because there's more. You know, he is a very... he's a man who's he's a deep thinker, right? He's definitely a deep thinker. But just because he's a deep thinker doesn't mean he knows everything. That's not what that means. It means he's thought very deeply about the things that he's thought deeply about. But the problem with that often is that there's other things that he is not so aware of. And so helping him become aware of these things that he's missed helps our relationship too. And I was very different than him. He was an academic. He was an intellectual, and I was spiritual and physical. And so we brought different values to the relationship. And so I think those things that we shared, what we treasured in our lives with each other, and we became closer and closer.
Well, it's kind of amazing watching you guys because like my Jordan and I, we're similar, I would say. Wouldn't you say? Like there's differences,
yes, you're similar.
But we're pretty similar personality-wise. And you guys aren't.
No.
Like, and it's pretty marked. So it's interesting that you guys work so well together being so different.
Well, we do share some things. We're both open, so we're both creative,
very.
and so we share that openness. We share that creativity. He's, and I'm extroverted.
I know.
He's just crazy extroverted.
I know. I used to think that you weren't extroverted because of how extroverted Dad is. And I was like, oh no, you have your own podcast. You're opening his shows. And you talk too. When you go out to parties and things, you're buzzing around. But he's on another level of extroverted.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, Mom's introverted. And then I met some actual introverts and I was like, oh, that's not it.
Yeah. So I'm kind of, my personality's kind of middle of the road compared to his.
You're both conscientious too.
You're
more orderly.
We're
but
both
you're
conscientious. Yeah.
So it's really just
And although he's quite agreeable and I'm more disagreeable, in terms of being a man and a woman, our personalities are probably fairly close that way. I'm more disagreeable than him, but not very much more. A little bit more. It's noticeable because I'm more blunt. He's more polite. And that can cause trouble. That can definitely cause trouble. I can say something blunt and it'll embarrass him, and he'll accept something that he probably wouldn't have accepted if he wasn't embarrassed. So I have to be really careful that I don't say something
to
make him uncomfortable.
So when you say those things, because I remember being made uncomfortable by things you would say as a teenager too. I think less so now.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think at all anymore, which is funny. I don't think you said something that made me feel uncomfortable in years. I was like, nah, she's probably right. But as a teenager, for sure. Maybe that's partly because I wasn't well.
Well, it wasn't just that. It was partly me too. I think that my experience when I was ill and my humility that I gained from that experience of being so sick has been very good for me and my relationships with other people.
Okay. That's definitely possible.
I think so.
Well, I think we get along splendidly now.
Yeah, we do. We've had a really good time. We've been here together off and on for a number of weeks now, right? So that's pretty good.
A month.
And before I got here, I wasn't sure. I wonder how we're going to get along, but it's been just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys came to stay when I was 32 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the time when I was like, oh, I'm really tired. Yeah, I wasn't that worried about it. I know Dad called me and we were like, is this going to be okay? We're all in the same house. But it's been totally fine.
Well, and you guys are pretty good and Jordan Fuller also is pretty good at telling us what he's thinking. He's blunt.
So
he's blunt, but he's blunt like I'm blunt.
Very. I know. Dad bought this container for our sink because we have this big sink in the kitchen. And if you wash dishes in it, food will get stuck in the corner and then you have to rinse out the corners. So Dad bought a bucket for the sink to wash dishes in. And Jordan my Jordan had an issue with this bucket in the sink. We're not having a bucket in the sink. Our house is filling up with, it's like I just married a version of my mother. But then a couple days ago, they're both in the kitchen and Dad goes, we figured out how to organize ourselves with a bucket. I can use the bucket and then it'll just go in this cupboard. And then my Jordan was like, yeah, we can both get behind that. But I was like, this bucket was a big deal 3 weeks ago. This sink bucket. I was like, I don't care. I'm about to have a baby. I don't care about the bucket in the sink, Jordan.
Funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been good though. It's been fun. It's been nice having you here.
Thank you. It's been good to be here.
And then I guess I could answer that again a bit. What makes my Jordan a good husband?
Yeah.
Well, he really likes me too, which is really nice.
It's important.
Yeah. It's really important to like each other. That sounds silly, but like that's very important. Like, they should basically be your best friend.
Yeah.
Otherwise, how are you going to live with somebody for a long period of time who's not your best friend? And so I don't know. He's my best friend. I guess that's what makes him a great husband. And he does care about things. Sometimes I have to hammer it in a little bit.
He's also a challenge, right? Jordan's a challenge.
You know
challenge.
what's great? I know what's great.
What?
I know what's great. I can talk to him and he doesn't get offended when I talk to him. So I'm like, hey, this is really bothering me. This is like, this thing you do is really annoying. And he either argues with me for a while, and then we'll come to some consensus about it, but he doesn't get offended by it. So I don't have to monitor what I say, which is so freeing, because if you talk to someone and you can pick up that they're kind of like, oh, like they get offended, then you can't communicate with them because they're like, okay, this thing is bugging me. How do I bring it up to this person without hurting their feelings? And that's so exhausting to think in the back of your mind all the time.
Impossible to always be able to do that.
And it means that you just lie. How do I say this in a way that doesn't hurt their feelings? Is like, you don't have to be rude to people. You don't have to be, like you said, you don't have to be as blunt as you can possibly be towards somebody. You can think about the way you say things to bring them up in an appropriate way. But having to monitor everything you say all the time is just, it just makes you either not say things or lie. So I'd say that's the best thing about him, is I can talk to him without him getting offended. So any little problem we have, and we'll have little problems throughout the day, they aren't really problems because I can just say them. And then sometimes it's a problem with me, right? And sometimes when I talk to him, I'll go, okay, I'm not feeling good. That's obviously what's happening. Is like, I'm anxious. And then, so maybe it's a problem with me. But that's probably my favorite thing about him, other than the fact we get along really well, is I can just talk to him without him being offended.
Well, it's very helpful for both of you, or both of us, to be self-reflective so that we can tell what our moods are like and help our partners understand where we're coming from. Because you don't want to impose yourself on someone else because you're nervous about something or afraid of something, like
angry or resentful.
Yeah, so tell your partner how you're, if there's something that is motivating you that you're not comfortable with it, share that and talk it through until the dance of your relationship re-emerges again. Then you know you've talked enough, because otherwise, if it's still there, you haven't negotiated enough, and you have to keep at it. You know, you have to bring that to a resolution so that there's no longer any sharp edges to it. Yeah. Then the fun emerges again.
Hey guys, check out these soaps. This is what I use. These are what I have at my house. I'm allergic to soap generally, as is my mom. Took after my mom in a lot of ways that way. Like that movie theater soap that's pink and liquid, literally makes my hands turn bright red. Anyway, I use Stone and Spear soap. They carry moisturizer, soap, face cream, shampoos, deodorants, lip balms, toothpaste, etc. They're all made from all natural ingredients like tallow, and tallow soap does not bother me Look at this hippie soap. Anyway, I'm forced into reducing toxins from my life because of autoimmune responses. And it's really something everyone should do before they have autoimmune problems or chronic illness, given we're exposed to an insane number of chemicals in our environment. Beef tallow, which is rich in omega-3s and vitamins A, D, E, K2, B12, choline, is the perfect substance to cleanse, nourish, and moisturize our skin. And it's what was used in soap before soap manufacturers got a hold of soap, big soap. Their moisturizer is also bomb and works insanely well for dry skin. If you put it on your legs, it makes your legs like shine in a very nice way. Check them out at stoneandspeartallow.com. Use code MP for 10% off. My favorite products are these. They have this charcoal soap, this soap, and their moisturizers. They're linked in the comments or the description. Enjoy the rest of this episode. It's wild too with all the so pregnancy hormones. I was definitely, you get pregnant, you have hormones. So our relationship changed during that. And I was way more irritable and just didn't have as much positive emotion, just didn't feel as good. And wasn't that interested in Jordan, which was that was kind of rough because it's 8 months. Me being I don't really want to be touched, kind of nauseous. I'm just maybe I should go live in a cave for the next 8 months and reemerge with a baby. But we seem to have negotiated that pretty well. But that changes. So even if the nice thing about communicating with somebody else throughout all these things is, especially if you have kids, is your relationship changes, goes up and down. But if you just can communicate, then you can come out on the other side. But being able to talk to somebody without them taking offense that's really important for me, apparently.
And I think also in terms of romance in a relationship and keeping the romance alive, if you don't have this communication with each other, if you don't keep up with the little niggly things that bother you, if you don't discuss those things, then if you try to have a date, those will be in your way. And so you have to have communication, ongoing communication, so that when you decide one night that you want to have a date, it's possible.
You're not annoyed about the last 30 things you guys didn't talk about.
That's right. So don't let it get away on yourself. Keep up. If there's something, and you know what? So my dad passed away. My dad died 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Almost 3, yeah.
So on the 11th of December, actually the day that George was born, which was awesome because he brought joy to us. That's the way it should be, yeah? That's the way it should be.
That was pretty, weird.
It was perfect.
Nice.
It was perfect. My dad, he left. Yeah, and he left and George came. It was something mystical about that. It was really something.
It was crazy, actually. You guys called me. You FaceTimed me right when my water broke.
Yeah. Right? Is that right?
It had broken maybe 20 minutes before.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and then you called. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
A lot going on today.
Yeah, a lot going on today. Yeah. I can't remember what I was going to say now. But anyway.
Well, that's okay. Let's keep going.
Okay.
Do we have any shared quirky behavior?
Oh, probably. I don't know if we share any. How do you define quirky behavior?
I don't know. Let me think. Is there anything that I do that reminds me of you? Well, I think the main similarity that we share is now that I'm older is I'm probably pretty fast to pick up on people or judge people, if you want to call it that. It's judging people, but it's also, I think, being intuitive. And I think I get that from you, not Dad. Because I used to bring friends home. This is something that just bothered me so much as a teenager. I used to bring friends home, and sometimes I'd bring a friend home, and you'd kind of be cold, and you'd just be like, nah, not that person. And I was like, Mom, why are you so mean to... I don't know if it was obvious to anybody other than your family, but I was like, why are you kind of cold and mean to this person? What did they do? They don't deserve that. And then inevitably each time that person would be just some horrible person. It was
full of trouble.
This is good. So when I moved out, I went to Concordia in Montreal, and I moved into this apartment, and the apartment had 5 people living in it, including me. And one of the guys living in it who was about 3 or 4 years older than me was insane. And he had a lot of money. I don't think he'd had any attention as a kid. And so there were reasons that led him into being the person he was, but the person he was not a great person. And he was old enough that like, you have to get yourself together. You can't just blame your childhood for your personality anymore. But we went into that apartment and he was crazy as soon as I got there. So he came out and he's like, did you use my towel? I was like, literally just moved my stuff and I don't even know who you are. Like, did you use my towel? It's like, I didn't use your towel. And mom just goes and hides in my room. And my dad, and we go out for dinner afterwards. And my dad's like, well, he's given all these reasons why this guy might be fine. And mom's just like, oh no, he's nuts. He's nuts. And wow, was he nuts. Anyway, I ended up moving out of that condo in 4 months because we fought so much. He lied. That was the first time I came across somebody who lied all the time.
Oh dear.
He convinced me, this is actually crazy. He convinced me that he was friends with the people who owned the condo building and he'd chosen us all as roommates. And we were just there because he'd looked at because you needed an application to get in. And on my application, I had like stays up late, goes out, like because you write all that down and they theoretically put you together with other people like you, which they don't do. It was just to make you feel good about filling out a form. But he came in one day, he was like, you lied about your form. And I was like, I didn't lie on my form. But I thought for like 3 months that he'd chosen us as roommates because he was always hanging downstairs with the people at the front desk and things. Wow. There like a lot of things went on in that apartment.
But then you went and you lived with two of the girls that lived in that.
I moved apartments. No, I didn't take anyone. I moved out. Part of the reason I moved out is because on my birthday, he came in and told me all the roommates had signed to get me to move out because we were really fighting. Like he had some OCD tendencies and I used to move things around in the condo to bother him. But it was because I'd put dishes away and he'd tell me I put the cups in wrong.
Yeah.
And it was like driving me crazy. And anyway, he told me all the roommates had signed this piece of paper and got me like to move out. And so I moved because I didn't like him anyway. And then all the roommates were like, why'd you move? I was like, well, there was this piece of paper. You guys asked me to move out. I was like, there was no piece of paper. Anyway.
That was good luck actually because you left there.
Thank goodness I left that and moved in with a bunch of girls and they were equally insane like me. And it was a good time.
Yes. You had much better time the next semester.
But you figured him out in about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Just left.
I just looked at him and thought, oh. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. How do I prepare for marriage to be the best wife I can be? And this is a question for you.
Okay.
How do you prepare?
Well, you think about if you've had any good, hopefully you've had a good male in your life, a good man in your life. Maybe it's your father, but maybe it's your uncle. Maybe it was a teacher. Maybe it was a priest. I mean, I don't know who the good example of a man is. Someone who you can trust and someone who you could look up to. And think about who that is. Someone you admire. And that could be your husband. Like really, really deeply think about the attributes that person had that makes you admire them. That's your husband. Write those things down. And then pray on that. Say, this is who I'm looking for. This is my Prince Charming. That's who I'm looking for. And you're way more likely to meet someone then who's like that because your eyes are open and you have a focus and you have a goal in mind. And so that's really helpful because you're not, as George says, you're not going to hit a goal if you don't aim for it.
I like that. Mm-hmm. Write down what you want and pray on it.
Yeah.
That sounds like sound advice. I think my advice would be practice for a female in particular, like how to be a good wife, practice not doing things you don't want to do, and setting up proper boundaries so that when you get into a relationship, you'll be able to tell the truth. And I think I struggled with that until I was about 27. And I think some people struggle for a lot longer, but I think some people figure it out a lot earlier. And I would just say, try to have the proper boundaries. So don't say yes to anything you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a lie.
That's a sin. That's a sin of sorts, I think.
Saying yes to things that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Even if you think it's better,
or
you
wanting
should.
something and then not insisting. That's another kind of sin. Sin of omission. Not doing what you need to do is a sin too. It's a sin for your own soul, you know. I mean, right?
It hurts you.
Yeah, it hurts you. So you have to be careful of those things. Yes, those are important things.
Yeah. And I think you can do a lot of work on yourself before you find someone to just turn yourself into somebody people want to be married to, or that ideally your future spouse will fall in love with.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important, especially for women, because I don't know if it's how our personality is, just being female and more compassionate, generally speaking, or if it's from how we're brought up as women. Like, so I think some of it might be societal, which is just like, if you're a girl, you should be doing more for other people. I think that might be societal in some way. But it's also personality wise, you want to do more for more people.
You might do more for more people and leave yourself out. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if more women do that than men. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Oh, there's definitely men that do that as well.
There's men that do that as well. But you have to realize that who you are today is not who you're going to be tomorrow, and definitely not who you're going to be in 10 years. And you have to do what you need to do for that person to prosper too. And actually, you can't really help other people unless you're helping yourself to become a better person. So you really, I think you do have to really focus on your own needs, what you need, not what you want particularly, but what you need, what grips you, you know, what brings meaning to your life. You have to do those things. And if you do those things, it'll inspire you to be, to share what you know and to help other people find their way. And, you know, so, but it's really important because, you know, when my dad died a couple of weeks ago, I learned something. A couple of days after I got here, he had only been dead for a couple of days when I came, because we are going to have a celebration of life this summer, and we cremated him and we went there, and that was good. But then we left, and my husband didn't come back with me, so I was alone here, and I was alone for about 5 days, and then I'm taking Catholic lessons, so I talked to my priest, and I admitted that I was feeling resentful because my husband didn't come home with me, and I was grieving and I was suffering. And he said, "Did you pray on it?" And I thought, yeah, I prayed on it. And then I thought, well, did I really pray on it? And I thought, oh my goodness, I was looking to have my grief relieved from my husband, or even from my daughter, or even from my granddaughter, from people, when I needed to ask God to come to me and help me with that. And it just came to me that was actually right. And that night I received my dad's obituary, and I thought, oh, it's a beautiful obituary. It just says exactly who he was in the best light possible. And my Jordan wrote it. And my brother Dale.
Oh, did he write it?
He wrote it right in the funeral home. He just started to write it.
Oh,
and then my
I
brother
didn't know
edited
that.
it, and we, sent it to everyone who wanted to add something, and, got it done. But Jordan wrote it. And, my husband has known my dad since George was 7 years old. He's known my dad. So he did really know him, and he did really like him. And so he wrote a beautiful obituary. and I wanted to share it with people. I had asked God to come to me and help me with my grief. And then I just felt like sharing my love for my father with everyone. And I shared it with like 36 people on Messenger. Anyone who might know him, I sent it to him. My friends, Jordan's friends, my cousins, like people I had, high school friends, like anybody who might have known him, I sent it to them. And then I started getting all these responses and these little stories about him. And I started to cry, and I cried quite a bit that night. But it was what I needed. It was what I needed, but I couldn't reach out with this love that I felt for my dad until I had asked for God to come and help me with my grief, because I was lonely. But of course I'm not alone, because I have this constant love from the Lord above, and I can ask for that whenever I want. I just am not that used to it, so I hadn't asked properly. But when I did ask properly, I felt so full that I just wanted to share love everywhere. And I thought, wow, that's wonderful and remarkable.
So I'm definitely bad at that. But I guess if you go through something traumatic, or if you're having a hard time, I mean, is it unreasonable to have people around you to support you?
Oh, no, I don't think it's unreasonable, but it's really hard. You can't get something from them. They aren't going to give you. You have to give to them. So when I was sick with cancer, and I came home to tell Julian that I was going to die in 10 months, and I had accepted it in the doctor's office as if it was true. And I came home to tell him that, and I saw this deep love, like maternal love.
Oh, I'm
sorry.
Postpartum for this.
Sorry. But when I saw that, I was filled up with love. I realized that I was worthwhile saving, because I was his mother. And I wanted to stay around to be his mother, right? And when I was just thinking about me, whether I was going to live or die, I was thinking about myself just as myself, not about who I'm attached to and who's attached to me, which is the important part of the whole story, is who am I? Who do I have relationships with? All those people. Yes, all those people are really, really important. Even all those people I messaged on Messenger are really important people. But I can't reach out to them until I'm filled up with love that I have asked for from God. And I didn't know that, but I certainly know it repeatedly. And so I learned it that day with that cancer diagnosis, and told Julian that only God knows when I'm going to live or die. First of all, I realized that, and that I would accept whatever treatment came my way, because I wanted to stay alive as long as possible to be with him and serve him in whatever way I could. And Jordan and you and like whoever else, but he was there at that moment. And now my dad has died, and I was grieving and not unsure of how to deal with it. But once I realized too oh my goodness, I need to ask directly from above, come to me, I need you, I'm suffering. And then I was full of love, like just like that. How can that be? That's wild. That's wild, but it's happened twice now in my life.
Wow.
And I think if I practice it, it can happen who knows how much.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a practice.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a practice. All the things that you take through your life, like being married, this, when you come home at night, how you want to be treated when you come in the door. You want that every day you come home. That's a practice, at the dinner table, how you interact with each other. At the dinner table, that happens every night. You want that to be a practice, and you want to perfect it and make it beautiful and loving. And then you can have that in all parts of your life. And it's a blast to do that. It makes your life into a loving adventure. And wow, what else do you need really than that? So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
That was nice.
Good.
Okay, I have to remember that.
Yeah, remember that. If you can, call me if you're suffering and I'll say,
okay.
Did you take that in prayer?
Okay, maybe I'll do that. That's be a good stepping stone.
Yes.
Jordan sometimes will be fighting about something and he'll be like, maybe you should pray.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want to pray right now. It's like, yeah, maybe I do. But not from you telling me.
Yeah.
I could call you. That should work.
Yeah, you could.
Okay. How did you feel being a stay-at-home mom?
How did I feel? I had no cell phone, right? It was before cell phones. It was before the internet was just getting going. So there was really no communication except for there was a telephone and there was going outside and finding people. So it was lonely for sure. But, I had some things I liked to do. I was an artist, and I drew you when you were just teeny, right? Just when you could sit up, I drew pictures of you, and I really liked that. So I think you have to maintain those interests that you have. Some people, it's, back to work. I don't recommend that. If you don't have to go back to work, I wouldn't go back to work because your baby needs you and you need to nurse if you can.
And you need the baby.
And you need the baby. Yes, you're finding that, right? Sometimes.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. You need the baby and the baby needs you. And so don't go back to work, but engage in and give people and bring people over and, spend time with people. Bring people over. Go for walks if you can. Go for your walks. And it's so funny when I remember I lived in a part of Montreal that was, it was Italian, Portuguese. It was Portuguese. And we used to go out for breakfast in the morning. It was $3.25 for bacon and eggs. It was nothing, And Jordan and I used to go out for breakfast all the time. And when you were born, we took you out to breakfast with us because a little baby, you can pretty much take them anywhere. And I remember this man, he was Frenchman with black curly hair and burly guy. He looked like a lumberjack from Quebec, Frenchman. And he turned around. He was in the next seat. He turned around and the smile on his face, and he was just like, Gucci, 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 Gucci. All of a sudden he turned into a father, and if I hadn't had a baby, well, he wouldn't have turned around or had anything to do with us. And so I noticed that I could walk around the neighborhood now, and crossing the street, people would stop and say hello or congratulate us. And it was so different. All of a sudden, this place that had really been pretty anonymous. I was pretty anonymous. Nobody even really, my upstairs neighbor didn't even know I was pregnant, even though I had a baby in January. I had probably lots of big clothes on and he didn't notice. But once the baby was there, then everybody noticed and everybody said hello. And all of a sudden I was part of the community in a way that I hadn't been before. I was part of this club of parents that is broad, and it's not class-based or anything. It's just all the people who have children, and everybody can have children. So it's everyone. And in that way, then I wasn't lonely because I had all of that kind of community around me, and it was good.
I think I was so stressed out with Scarlett that I couldn't pick up on that.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't like it. I was so anxious. It was crazy. It was so rough. But it's not like that anymore at all.
That's good.
So thank God for that.
Yeah, well, once George gets a little older and you can go out, you'll see it this time. You'll see it.
Yeah. Well, I remember people coming up, but I remember just being like, people I don't know, I don't want to talk to you just because I have a baby.
Yeah. Well, Della told me, my sister told me when I had a baby, I'd be a member of a new club. And it is. You're now a member of the club, of the family club that you weren't a member before and you never even saw it existed. But now you're part of it and people will welcome you in.
I think it's because you understand how like hard it is, what
Oh,
what
yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's
What
just
it is,
really-
it's profound. It's a profound change. There's nothing that grows up a girl except for having a baby. That grows a girl into a woman.
Yeah.
And it grows a boy into a father. And it grows you up. And so it's so profound.
What's Mikhaila's most annoying quality and vice versa?
Okay.
There's nothing annoying about me.
I
won't be offended, I promise.
You're kind of blunt. I'm afraid you're a bit like me. You're kind of blunt. And so in emails sometimes you can be a little hard to take. And I'd say that's probably the most annoying part.
Was that just pregnant me though? Or did that happen before pregnant me?
I think that you have a tendency to be rather blunt.
Okay, I was going to say your most annoying quality is your tendency to be rather blunt. That's kind of annoying sometimes.
Yeah. And when I realized that you were blunt, I thought, she's just like me. I didn't want that to be the case, but it is the case.
That's funny. Okay. That's funny though. We've both got that and it's both annoying.
Yeah, so it is annoying.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it is annoying.
It's not like you're just like me and so it's fine. No, actually that's not true.
That's funny. I think Jordan's made it worse.
Well, I think when you love someone, you can be very blunt with them. So you have to be really careful with the people you love, not to be blunt with them. And I've noticed that when I'm blunt, things that aren't supposed to happen, that I don't even want to happen, do happen. And when I'm kind and, if I have something to say, to reserve it until the right time so that it comes till God's time, so that when it comes, it's not because I decided it comes because it was the right time for it to come. And then it doesn't cause any waves. That's much better.
That's important.
Yeah, it's really important.
Waiting for things to happen too, when you realize, this thing should happen, or I want this thing to happen, whether it's at work or in your relationship.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that in terms of work, so building Peterson Academy is like, there's some parts that have been really difficult to like, we're missing a feature, like something's missing here, but we're not sure how to integrate it, or we're not exactly sure how to make it fit. Okay, so the writing component for the app, we were like, we're going to have all these courses online and we're going to have testing involved in the courses. But for some courses, like humanities courses, you kind of need an essay component. And it took 1.5 years of me being like, how on earth do you incorporate an essay component into an app where you don't want people to go off the app? Like, it's kind of messy. So we didn't incorporate it. And then like 2 days ago, we figured out how to incorporate it in. And for people watching, it's going to be opt-in. You're not forced to write essays if you watch the courses. You can just watch the courses and learn. But if you want to write essays, there's now a way to write them. But it was the same, I think since becoming a Christian. And I was like, God, there really is something to God's timing where you can say, I really want this to happen. And you can push on it and push on it. And if it just doesn't work, like all the doors are closed and you can't get through them, you can just wait sometimes. And sometimes, I don't know, it takes like the essay component for the app's not that important of an issue in life. It took 1.5 years.
Right. So these things they happen in the time that they're supposed to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool though. You
It
just
is
be
very
like, well,
cool.
he'll take care of it at some point.
But
It'll just
the
line
only
up.
way to notice it is to pause and not say the thing that is going to cause conflict, and to wait, to like put it aside, what the thing that you want to say, maybe it's significant, maybe it's not, but maybe it's significant. Let's put that aside and we're just going to file it. We're going to file that. And then when it's right to say it, we'll say it. And that time may never come.
How is that different though? I hate doing that, by the way. Like if there's something wrong, I'm like, this needs to be figured out. I'm getting this out of me right now. But how is that different than hiding things?
Well, you are acknowledging that you have something to say.
Okay.
But you're filing it. So you're not saying, I'm not going to say that. You're saying, I'm going to give this to God, and God will help me know when the right time is. And so it's faith. It's a move of faith to put something that you strongly desire. But you know that if you presented it now, it would be trouble.
Okay, no. I can think of some examples then, yeah.
Yeah, you put it aside. And sometimes I'll say whatever that was in a moment and think, oh, right, there that thing was. And I've said it, and it wasn't even my plan because now's the right time. And it didn't cause any trouble. And I think, wow, that's cool.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I can get behind that.
Okay.
Was there ever a rocky time between you two, and how did you handle it?
Oh, yeah, there was lots of rocky times.
Tons of rocky times.
Yeah, tons of rocky times. But really, you were very sick. And I also had my own health troubles too, right? When I used to eat gluten, oh my God. And when I used to take, I stopped taking the birth control pill when Julian was born, so you didn't know me then. But when I used to eat gluten, oh my God. It was, first of all, it was exhausting because I was falling asleep all the time. But I also had no patience. It made me kind of crazy. And so I was much more reactive than I am now. Now I'm pretty, pretty...
Yeah. And I was insanely
sick.
Volatile.
Yeah, and very sick.
But sick.
Yeah.
With the antidepressants and just so sick that, yeah, we had rocky times. But when I look back at that, especially during my teenage years, I mostly look back and think, whoa, I was really sick.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's all I think, really.
Yeah.
And I think, well, it was unfortunate, and it couldn't be dealt with any sooner than it was dealt with. I prayed to my mother. My mother died in 2007. How old were you then? You were born in 92.
I had the joints replaced in 2009.
Yeah.
17. I would have been 15.
So when my mother died, I started, and I may have prayed to her before that, but because she was ill for a couple of years.
Not 15. That would make me much older than I am. I was not 15. Let's just clarify that. I don't have to be any older than I already am. No, that would have, I don't know, younger than 15, maybe 12.
So I started praying for you then through my mom every day. And I just asked my mom to intercede. Come and intercede, Mom, we need you.
Aw.
Mm-hmm. And then you got better, and I was like, thank you, Mom. Yeah, thank you, Mom.
What were your first impressions of my husband? I remember.
Oh, I remember. Where did we meet? In a restaurant? We were sitting somewhere. I think it might have been a restaurant. And he sat beside me. And he'd turn to me. He'd say, hi, Tammy. I'd say, hi. Did I tell you I love your daughter?
Aw.
And he told me that night 5 times.
Really?
5 times. Yeah.
That's so nice. Aw.
Yeah.
We were arguing before this podcast, but that's pretty sweet. Aw, that's nice.
Yes.
I think your first impression was I was at the cottage with you guys and he was FaceTiming me. And I introduced you to him on the phone and you went, are you gay?
I did, didn't I?
That was the less sweet first impression. But to be fair,
he was pretty nice
looking. He's got good hair, yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe I got to ask.
I think you were just testing him. That was
that
was definitely just a test.
Yeah.
It's just that's what we mean
Let's
by
see if he
blunt.
has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his reaction going to be if I just say this? Don't even know who this guy is.
That was what my dad was like, right?
I know.
Yeah. So I've inherited some of that.
It's funny though.
Yeah, it was funny.
Aw, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, best advice that you gave me. This one's for me.
Mm-hmm.
Advice. I think the thing that I'm most grateful that I got from you, rather than it wasn't straight up advice, like dad doling out advice, it was watching you probably taught me to be more intuitive. Like I always knew you were intuitive and I didn't understand what that was. And I didn't even believe in intuition until I think I got off all medications and was like, oh, you know, there are things you can pick up on that are because of your intuition, and they're real. And I couldn't even access that until I got off of all the medication. But I think watching you be intuitive helped. And I think also watching you dive into all these quacks you brought me to. Mom, when I was sick, starting from like grade 2, Mom just brought me to people that I thought were quacks.
Every
one
naturopath
after
I could
another.
find.
And it was every naturopath. It was people
Chiropractors,
that got you to
kinesiologists,
hold metal bars to see how you reacted to sugar and things. And I was so sick that like I wasn't able to go to a naturopath and have them give me supplements and have them make any semblance of difference.
Yeah.
And the more we tried, the more skeptical I got. But you just brought me to like person after person after person, trying and trying and trying and trying. And so who knows how much of my ability to just keep looking and keep looking and keep looking for answers to whatever problem pops up is from that. Who knows how much of a difference that made, because that I definitely learned that from you.
Thank you for telling me that.
You're welcome. Thank you for doing that for me.
My
Even though I
pleasure.
was not happy about it at the time.
Gratitude. It's a good thing.
I think we could end with this one. What's it like living beside someone as famous as Jordan, and how does it affect you?
Well, let's see. When I was sick, and then he was sick, and we'd been apart, and then we were finally together again, and we just hadn't been out to dinner in 3 years, right? And we invited Julian and Jill to go out for dinner. And we go into this restaurant and we just sit down, and I can see out of the corner of my eye this lady running across the restaurant, you know, so excited. And I thought, oh my God, it's starting again. And I wasn't ready, right? I wasn't ready. And she was coming to tell Jordan how much she loved him, you know. And I got up from my seat and I went in the bathroom and gathered myself and recognized, okay, Tam, this is life. You have a public life. Your husband is a public figure. I did this before, and it was 3 years ago, right? I did this before. I can do this again. I just need to take a moment. And get my head wrapped around this and not be resentful and not be angry that my life isn't what it used to be and that my family doesn't have privacy anymore, and that we can be grateful that this is an opportunity. And, you know, I just had to wrap my head around it, and then I came out and I sat down. And so it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge to be married to someone who's as well known as he is. But I think that he does a great job because he has space for everyone. Even if we're in a rush, you know, we'll be late for a plane, and we'll hear Dr. Peterson, and he stops and he shakes their hands and he asks them what their name is. And then he might say, you know, I have to go, but he doesn't ignore anybody. And that's remarkable to watch. It's remarkable to see someone with that much compassion. It's really something. And I'm not surprised that he has the position that he does have, because he can be that person. And good for him, you know, that's what I think. Good for him. And when he first became famous, I thought, let's see what's going to happen to us now, because he's famous. And so our marriage isn't what it was. And so if I don't decide that this is something that I can be a part of, our marriage is over. So I decided I could be a part of it. And, you know, I started slow. I just went with him. I didn't have anything to do with anything except for making sure he was fed and had enough rest. And I did that for quite a long time. And I listened to him, and I listened and listened and listened. And really, he'd been a professor. I had never taken his classes. You're right. I'd never really spent any time focusing on his work. I had done my own thing. But that year I sat in the audience for, 200 shows and listened to everything. And I evaluated the quality of his lectures because I was there every day. And some days he was not as good as others. And then I would think, what did he do today? Was he tired? So I was really paying attention and trying to make this the best that I could. But the other thing I do is I listened and I learned all the things that he was teaching. And that was cool. Great. So what an opportunity. And I had no idea really that is what was going to happen. It just happened that way. And then I think when God came to me, it had something to do with me listening to all of those lectures. And really the Bible was in all those lectures. A little at a time. It was in there. And so...
Ooh, I just got goosebumps.
You did, eh? Yeah, well, I do think that was part of why I was able to access my deepest religion. It was because of that.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So you never know what's going to happen in your life. So you have to think about when something like that happens. There's a big shift in our marriage. Are you going to be bitter? Are you going to decide that it's not about you, so you're not going to go? Or are you going to think, what's important here? What's important here? I'm his wife. He's my husband. That bond has been very important to us up till now. It can continue to be important if I decide that I will go along for the adventure. And so I've gone along for the adventure. And it's worked out very well for me as well as for him, but for me as well. I've found my place, and I'm very grateful. So I'm very grateful. Why wouldn't I be? Really, it's a beautiful experience. I know that there's challenges that we're trying to address, and people suffer, and we want to be helpful. So it's good.
Wow. Thank you very much for coming on. Nice talking to you.
Thanks for the invitation, Mikhaila. Really, thank you. And thank you for taking on your life like you have. It's wonderful for a mother to see. It's great.
Okay, we'll shut this off before either of us start crying.
Okay.